Informed by our own community's history as victims of racism during World War II, San Francisco's Japantown stands united against hate.
Sparked by the failure of political leadership and racist intent, hate crimes against the Asian American Pacific Islander community has risen during the COVID-19 pandemic.
As a community that knows all too well the history of racial prejudice, wartime hysteria, and failure of political leadership, our Japanese American community responds, using our own experience as a call to action.
As a community, Japanese Americans cannot be silent while groups are targeted and demonized in the same way we once were.
Now more than ever, our community must speak out for targeted communities, including our own.
Although there has been hate-inspired vandalism, San Francisco's Japantown has thus far escaped physical attacks of hate.
But we must remain vigilant against such attacks, particularly for our vulnerable and beloved seniors.
What constitutes bullying? Unwanted aggressive behavior such as ongoing taunting. What about a hate incident? Racially derogatory statements or insults? And then what about a hate crime? A hate crime is violence or threats of violence that rise to the level of criminal behavior beyond just speech.
Some examples of hate-motivated bullying include taunting one's race, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or physical or mental disabilities. The bullying behavior may also be aggressive, antagonistic, and assaultive.
We need to identify who this is happening to and where. Sharing your information is important.
By gathering information, we can push for better protection, educational resources, and policies that can put an end to this.
Japantown came together in solidarity to stand united against more than 700 hate crimes in just 2 weeks after the 2016 election alone. These appeared to be emboldened by the misogynistic, xenophobic, and racist rhetoric of the Trump campaign.
These hate crimes included physical assaults and racist vandalism. At this event entitled United for Compassion, then San Francisco Public Defender Jeff Adachi told us, quote, "We all need to be public defenders now."
We also recognize the perils of systemic racism. As Black people continuously fall victim to countless cases of police brutality, we echo and support the grassroots movement for Black lives and demand justice and liberation for Black people.
We must continue to address injustices faced by all communities of color, including our Black neighbors in the city's Fillmore district. We welcome any community who wants to stand in solidarity together.
In a show of unity, the Japanese American and Japantown community is taking a clear stand against hate while addressing the fear that has shrouded our communities.
We stand in solidarity for equality,
equity, and freedom.
We stand for the human spirit.
We stand here united against hate.
For the sake of our elders and for our children, join us in standing united against hate.
Welcome everyone to the inaugural edition of the Nichi Bei Café. What is the Nichi Bei Café, you might ask? It's a place where East meets West for a mixed plate of Japanese American news and culture.
It's a place where we can gather together while apart as we continue to self-isolate during this unprecedented global pandemic. Like you, we've been sad that we haven't been able to gather the past 2 years like we used to, whether for community festivals, family gatherings, or summer Obon festivals.
The Nichi Bei Café is like some warm and friendly hangouts from yesteryear, whether it's May's Cafe or Benkyoro's lunch counter in San Francisco's Japantown, or June's Cafe in Sacramento. It's a place where you can meet old friends and new with a strong sense of community.
Of course, we'd love to hang out with you personally, but through the innovative use of technology, we hope to provide you the next best thing. We hope to keep the community engaged through such monthly programming.
We couldn't have launched this event without the generosity of our sponsor, the Henri and Tomoye Takahashi Charitable Foundation, who is funding monthly programs for the next 12 months. Through each program, we hope to provide you with a cup of interesting interviews and previews of community events.
At the same time, we hope to offer you a heaping tablespoon of cultural reinforcement, whether it be from food, origami lessons, or sake cocktails, and we hope to empower legacy businesses in Japantowns and places in between.
Some editions will be tied to special editions in the Nichi Bei Weekly, your leading Japanese American community newspaper. And we'll also have special editions like our upcoming 3rd annual atomic bomb commemoration in August.
Without further ado, let's get the cafe rolling. First up, we're proud to present a Yuzu Sorbet demonstration by Namiko Chen of Just One Cookbook, who has collaborated with the Nichi Bei Weekly to provide shelter-at-home recipes published in the newspaper during the pandemic, part of our extensive efforts to keep the community engaged.
Next, we will feature a preview of Day of Remembrance programs featuring Christine Umeda, chair of the Northern California Time of Remembrance in Sacramento, who will discuss their upcoming program on Saturday, February 12th.
Following Christine, we will have Reiko Nakayama and Will Kaku of Nihon Machi Outreach Committee discuss San Jose's upcoming Day of Remembrance commemoration, followed by Bay Area Day of Remembrance Consortium Chair Jeffrey Matsuoka talking about San Francisco's event.
I was 4 years old when I was forcibly removed with my family. And so I experienced a lot of things. Well, the origin of Time of Remembrance really began back with the Florida JCL and Mary Tsukamoto. It was in 1981, as the redress movement was beginning, that she really felt that it was important to remember and to help the community prepare for what was coming up with redress. And ultimately, she was able, through these town hall meetings, Time of Remembrance, Day of Remembrances, she was able to recruit people who were incarcerated, who had good memories, and to begin to help them recall and even prepare for the testimony that was to come up. Mary, being a consummate educator, we began doing student education. And we did that with the collaboration of the Elk Grove Unified School District. Since 1982, that school board has every year passed a resolution recognizing the Time of Remembrance. And I don't believe there's any other school district in the United States that has done that and made that commitment. We had been doing all of our community event at the Florida Buddhist Church and the student education at the Elk Grove boardroom. But we simply ran out of space and we could not accommodate everyone. And it was at that time that one of the persons who was our intern was Kelly Bitts. And she had taken a job with the California Museum. And coincidentally, they were looking to expand their programs. And so in discussions with Marielle and a number of us, they said they would open their doors for our program. Through someone who was very dear to our program, Georgiana White. She was the archivist at the California State University, Sacramento, the library collection. They developed a program called the Japanese American Archival Collection. And the bulk of the initial contribution came from Mary Tsukamoto's collection. But since we moved to the California Museum, because of the their facility in there and what's possible, we are able to have educate about 5,000 students every year. And our committee sort of thought about it, says, well, why don't we reach out to the surrounding chapters and see if we can build a coalition so we don't have individual programs throughout the community. And there were 5 initial groups, and that was the Florin, Lodi, Marysville, Placerville, Stockton, and Sacramento. And so this is our 20th year. This year, we find that so many of the things that we experience, we share that with so many communities, but the Native Americans were especially someone that we felt that has not been given much voice like we. And we needed to find a way to include them. And we were so fortunate to meet the chair of the ethnic studies at CSUS, and Dr. Reed became a consultant. And one of probably the biggest aha moments for me was when she mentioned that one of the things that happened in our incarceration experience, as well as for the Native Americans, is the government took away their language, their culture. They tried to take away their culture, put children in boarding schools. And I think we felt the same thing, that after we came back, things Japanese was not American enough. For the program itself this year, we have 4 members. We have 2 from the Native American community, which is Dr. Annette Reed, another gentleman called Sage Romero. Sage is part of an Akamaya dance cultural group. And then, of course, we were able to talk Kiyosato, who is almost one of the revered persons in our community. And then finally, we were lucky to have Lisa Nakamura. She is a sensei, but she has an extensive background as a clinical psychologist. We're going to have a nice mix of conversation and stories that will be told. And we're going to cover the whole thing of oppression, white supremacy, the separation of families and children, and then reconciliation. Where do we go from here? We don't want to end up with just all the things that happen, but we want to be hopeful and look forward to what's going to happen from this point on and what can we do together.
Well, Nihonmachi Outreach Committee was started in 1979 by some concerned individuals, mostly younger, but there were definitely some Nisei members, and they were concerned about redevelopment in San Jose, Nihonmachi. And then in 1980, they decided to take up the redress campaign in San Jose and started a grassroots movement to get some support going within the community at first. At the time, the opinions within the Japanese American community were quite diverse. Some people did not want to, bring it up, and others, mostly Sansei, but notably some Nisei, were in favor of bringing this to public awareness through very basic grassroots type of activities. And this is before email and internet and social media. So it was quite a challenge to bring that to, public awareness. Did the commission hearings created more interest in people speaking out about their experiences. But I would say it would be later on, like in the later 1980s, with the passage of HR 442, that it became more of a more well-known. What I noticed over the years as far as attendance goes is in the early 1980s, there were a lot of Issei who were still attending, and there was a bilingual program. And as the years went by, there were more and more sansei who were getting involved and getting interested and asking their parents, what happened. And after 9/11, people wanted to show up and get involved and do things. So we saw a big increase in attendance. Our last public program was in 2020, and we had maybe roughly 600 people in attendance.
I think it was one of the first programs to invite the Arab American, Muslim American community. All that bitterness in the aftermath of the Iraq invasion, I saw hope. I saw a community that was trying to use their experience of incarceration as a vehicle to reach out to other communities that were being looked at possibly disloyal to this country. It is our moral obligation to defend all people, all communities, when they face discrimination and when they are targeted. We do draw that connection between the past from 80 years ago to the issues of today. So the theme is overcoming hate and fear. And that's not saying that, because it's our theme for 2022, that hate and fear is a new phenomenon. We are living in very stressful times at this moment with this great political polarization, which ended up in violence last year. We have this terrible pandemic that unfortunately has also been politicized. And this pandemic has spurred on a lot of anti-Asian hate. And so in this year's program, we have Cynthia Choi, who is with the organization Stop API Hate, and she's also co-director of Chinese for Affirmative Action, CAA. And she's going to talk about her organization, Stop API Hate, where they are now nationally recognized. They have brought awareness to these hate incidences throughout the country. We're going to have the campaign for justice for Japanese Latin Americans. And since 9/11, we've always had a member of the Muslim American community speak out at our program to talk about their experiences in facing hate and racism. And the other speaker that we'll have is Attar Siddiqui from the South Bay Islamic Association. We want to focus in on the stories of people who were in the camps. And so we'll have 5 remembrances sprinkled throughout the program of people talking about their experiences in the camp.
The first San Francisco Bay Area DOR was actually held in San Bruno at the site of the Tan Foran Shopping Center. Of course, that was on February 19th, 1979. And of course, Tan Foran was significant for our community since that was kind of the racetrack where the first stop basically for San Francisco residents to go to the camps. So, and our keynote speaker that year was Min Yasui. We also had performances by Janice Mirakitani. It brought together multi-generations of Japanese Americans who for the first time confronted the legacy of internment. So it was really a spark plug for the subsequent redress movement that, of course, happened in the 80s. After 9/11, within our community, the activists, of course, who worked for redress for our community saw the relevance of defending Muslim Americans who were put in kind of a very similar situation that, of course, the Issei were put in to at the outbreak of World War II. They were being demonized, they were being threatened, they were being discriminated against. And once again, it goes to tell you that despite the gains that our community gained through redress, many of the lessons were not being learned. So that was what kind of energized, I believe, our community to rally behind Muslim Americans. Yes, as of course, the internees from the concentration camps of World War II age and they pass away, it's very incumbent for the Day of Remembrance to remember their sacrifices and injustices that were put upon them by the government. And I think it's very important, particularly for the younger generation, to remember the lessons that were learned by the unjust incarceration of our community. This year's keynote speaker is Mr. John Osaki, who is the executive director of the Japanese Community Youth Council. And of course, he's also a renowned filmmaker. He recently filmed a production called Reparations, which talked about the importance of Black reparations. And I think in our community, we've come to realize the parallels between the Black American experience and our community's experience in the forms of the need for reparations. So the Clifford Iweta Award highlights every year an activist in our community who has shown devotion and also great vision in fighting for human rights and civil rights for our community, as well as for all Americans. Dr. Clifford Iweta, who was a San Francisco pediatrician, who was very active in various JA activist movements throughout his career. This year, we're very proud to award the Clifford Iweta Award to Karen Kai and Robert Ruskey. Of course, Robert Ruskey unfortunately passed away last year, but of course, they were both on the Core Novus team, and they have a long history of activism in support of our community. Of course, in keeping with our theme, no one is free until we are all free, 80 years after EO 9066. And this idea of having to support Black reparations in light of our own community's experience, part of our call of action is, in fact, to support HR 40 and other actually Black reparations movements throughout the city as well as throughout the state. Another call to action is the unfinished business for redress and reparations for Japanese Latin Americans. And this in particular hits home close to me, since I'm actually a descendant of Japanese Latin Americans. My mother was actually a Peruvian Japanese who was essentially kidnapped and renditioned to the United States. She and her family spent her years in Crystal City, Texas, at the Department of Justice camp. And although those who are in the WRA camps were able to gain reparations, unfortunately, those who are in the DOJ camps, particularly the Peruvians and other South Americans, have not yet gained reparations. But we're very happy to have performances by Anthony Brown, Lauren Ito, and Jerry Waki. Lauren will be performing a poem in honor of the memory of Janice Murakitani.
Last year, our staff and board was concerned about low vaccination rates and the need to follow health and safety guidelines to wear masks, especially for our younger ones who then were not yet able to be vaccinated.
We felt it was important to show leadership, so we created this special public service announcement featuring our staff, board, and two very special youth, Juna and Nagi.
This past year and a half will be forever remembered as one of sacrifice.
Some of you have had loved ones pass away, and many of you have not seen your loved ones for months.
Some of our loved ones were not able to have a proper memorial service.
And although everyone has sacrificed so much, we hope that you can join us.
In this time of deep division in our country, it's important to remember what ties us together.
Let us be an example for how to care for our fellow citizens and turn back the tide of this deadly disease.
Please wear a mask and get vaccinated.
Please remember to wear a mask and please get vaccinated.
Don't throw away your shot.
We're all in this together, so let us care for one another.
パンデミックはまだ終わっていません。一人一人が少しの我慢をしましょう。
お互いを守るためにワクチンを打ってマスクをしましょう。Please get vaccinated for my brother and me, and for other children like us around you.
Next up, we have a special friend of ours stopping by the cafe for the main course, Seattle-based author and writer Frank Abe, who will present a video essay on creating Day of Remembrance. Frank will recall how he and others helped to start what is now a national tradition by launching the first Day of Remembrance in 1978.
I've been asked to share with you the origins of the first Day of Remembrance in Seattle at the Puyallup Fairgrounds. That first event was held on Thanksgiving weekend of 1978. But Days of Remembrance have become a tradition to mark the anniversary of Executive Order 9066 on February 19th. What I want you to keep in mind is that this was an invented tradition, and it was invented here in Seattle 4 decades ago. The leadership came from the Evacuation Redress Committee of the JACL chapter in Seattle. I took it as a badge of honor that Seattle was disparaged as the so-called Maverick chapter back then. These were the people who inspired me to the cause of redress, and I want you to know their names. From the left, Shosuke Sasaki, Henri Miyatake, Chuck Kato, Mike Nakata, and Ken Nakano. Shosuke was the Issei thinker of the group, a retired securities analyst. Henri and the other Nisei were aerospace engineers at Boeing. They were real slide rule jockeys with pocket protectors in their shirts. So the idea for the event and the name came from San Francisco playwright Frank Chen, who was then living in Seattle to write a long essay on the grassroots redress campaign. What also kicked us into action was opposition to redress from this seeming authority on the subject, S.I. Hayakawa, who, if you're too young to remember, was a Japanese Canadian elected to the U.S. Senate from California, who never spent a day in camp himself. The major media joined the attack. The Wall Street Journal accused us of guilt-mongering, of snapping at compensation for ancient wrongs under the guise of human rights. and condemning a broader society in which collective guilt for past sins had become a commodity to be traded, mongered, and exploited. So a Day of Remembrance was conceived as street theater, and a way to get the media and public opinion on our side. This was the poster we tacked up on telephone poles and in bowling alleys, just like the Western Defense Command posters in 1942. The design was superimposed over a ghost image of the original poster, with language calibrated to signal that this was not just a commemoration. The operative word up: remember the concentration camps, stand for redress with your family. The poster invited people to join us in dramatizing the eviction from Seattle with a car caravan down Interstate 5 to our hometown concentration camp at the Western Washington Fairgrounds, which was the site of the old Puyallup Assembly Center. Now, we had a sense that people were interested by the number of phone calls we were getting, but nothing prepared us for the crowd that flooded the parking lot of Sick Stadium. It felt like the entire community poured out to remember the camps and stand for redress with their families. So many people showed up, we struggled to sign everyone in. Joining us were actor and comedian Pat Morita. He spoke at the event, as did Gordon Hirabayashi, Seattle's Nisei daughter Monica Sone, and the actor Mako. The line of cars stretched down Interstate 5 as far as the eye could see. And inside the cars, the memory of leaving Seattle triggered something inside the Nisei. Parents opened up to their children about what happened to them during the war, many of them for the first time. And what people feared most never happened. There was no white backlash, no angry mob, no rekindling of old resentments and racism, as Hayakawa had threatened. Anthropologist Yasuko Takazawa called it the event that burst open the tomb of Japanese American history. We've come a long way from that day in 1978. But while a Day of Remembrance is often observed as a commemoration or a time of reflection, it was founded in the heat of political pushback. It was always about taking action. Over the past 40 years, I've been pleased to see communities use the Day of Remembrance as a rallying point to stand with other targeted groups. Our government was wrong to single out Japanese Americans for exclusion and incarceration based solely on our race. It was wrong then, and it's wrong now. But fortunately, whenever we see Americans turn against a people because of their race or their religion or their immigration status, Japanese Americans have shown that we won't just stand by. We won't just go along. We're speaking up. We're saying that every person deserves a fair hearing before removal or detention. We're saying that no children should be separated from their parents, just as after Pearl Harbor, many of our fathers were separated from their families. We're being the friends we didn't have when we needed them the most. It happened to us. And every year, on the Day of Remembrance, we are saying we refuse to let it happen again to anyone else. Thank you.
Next up, we have another main course feature, our upcoming 11th annual Films of Remembrance, a showcase of films on the wartime forced removal and incarceration of the Japanese American community in American concentration camps during World War II. Over the past several months, our Films of Remembrance committee has gone through hours of films to curate this year's virtual program, which will be held on Saturday, February 27th and Sunday, February 28th at www.filmsofremembrance.org. We hope that you enjoy the following overview of Films of Remembrance, showing its growth throughout the years, as well as a trailer featuring the 10 films in this year's program. Please enjoy. Next up, we have another main course feature, our upcoming 11th annual Films of Remembrance, a showcase of films on the wartime forced removal and incarceration of the Japanese American community in American concentration camps during World War II. Over the past several months, our Films of Remembrance committee has gone through hours of films to curate this year's virtual program, which will be held on Saturday, February 27th and Sunday, February 28th at www.
Films of Remembrance was launched in 2012 to provide filmmakers a venue to showcase their work. More specifically, the event showcased films on the wartime incarceration of Japanese Americans in American concentration camps during World War II.
From its humble beginnings in the Union Bank Community Room in San Francisco's Japantown, the event has grown to become the Nichi Bei Foundation's signature educational program and the premier event of its kind in the country, spanning some 90 film screenings over 9 years. The event expanded to Sacramento in 2017, New York City in 2019, and to San Jose's Japantown in 2020. Films of Remembrance was conceived as it became apparent that there were films being made on the wartime incarceration, but no real venue to present them. It began as a supplement to San Francisco's Day of Remembrance commemoration. But it soon grew to a larger event on its own, expanding to the Nihonmachi Little Friends Auditorium in its second year, and then New People's Cinema in San Francisco's Japantown in its third and subsequent years. In February of 2020, a second day was added in collaboration with the San Jose Betsuan Buddhist Church, vastly expanding the reach of the educational event and reaching some 1,400 people over 2 days. Designed as an event to bring out little-known stories about the World War II experience, Films of Remembrance has also sought to both empower and honor filmmakers, complete with a filmmaker's reception. Films have evolved to include the incarceration in the Hawaiian Islands and the forced relocation of Japanese Canadians. Not solely geared towards documentaries, Films of Remembrance has also featured dramatic shorts and features, as well as animations. The Films of Remembrance Committee, which curates the annual event by evaluating hours of film every year, prides itself on bringing out the untold stories of wartime concentration camp experience. Past showcase films have included Alternative Facts, The Lies of Executive Order 9066, Never Give Up, Minoru Yasui and the Fight for Justice, Relocation Arkansas, Aftermath of Incarceration, Rite of Passage on the Japanese-American Redress Movement, Hatsumi, One Grandmother's Journey Through the Japanese-Canadian Internment, and The Untold Story, Internment of Japanese Americans in Hawaii. Films of Remembrance Encore was held in Sacramento in May of 2017 in collaboration with the Sacramento Asian Pacific Film Festival and the California Museum. Citing the need to educate the greater public across the country, Films of Remembrance New York was held in November of 2019 at the Tenley Cultural Institute of New York in the city's Greenwich Village. In February 2020, Films of Remembrance was expanded to include both San Francisco and San Jose Japantown, in a unique collaboration with the San Jose Betsuan Buddhist Church. Some 11 filmmakers had their work screened at 2 venues over a 2-day period. Future plans include bringing Films of Remembrance to all 3 remaining Japantowns, as well as other cities across the country. For more information, visit www.filmsofremembrance.org.
In April 2018, a journey began for 5 San Francisco Bay Area artists: Reiko Fuji, Ellen Bepp, Kathy Fujioka, Judy Shintani, and Sherry Arai DeBoer, shared a common history. Their relatives were unjustly imprisoned in American concentration camps during World War II. These included Topaz Camp in Utah, Heart Mountain Camp in Wyoming, Gila River Camp in Arizona, Amachi Camp in Colorado, Crystal City Family Camp in Texas, Lordsburg Camp in New Mexico, and Tule Lake and Manzanar camps in California. This particular journey to the Manzanar camp transported the artists deeper into their families' roots, to imagine a time when their relatives were sent to desolate areas of the country. The artists sought to dig deeper beneath the layers, to reveal more about this unjust history that connected them, as they discovered unexpected insights and unique shared experiences. These Zensai, or third-generation Japanese artists, came together as daughters and granddaughters, open, seeking, with a desire to honor their ancestors who had endured the World War II incarceration.
Auntie Minnie, she had a singular purpose in life, and that was to create her art.
They didn't have any cameras, were not allowed, you see, and immediately I went out to do minute sketches of everything in camp, and I decided to stay back and finish this set of drawings that I was doing for the book, which turned into Citizen 13660.
I mean, I really marvel at the audacity of Mineo Kubo to get her memoir published, you know, at a time when the incarceration experience was still a current event. It wasn't even recent history yet.
I think that she serves as a perfect example of an artist of color who's defiant and refuses to, quote unquote, assimilate into the white male art world. For that, I think she's very inspiring.
Right here is the hotbed, the nerve center of the spy system, of planning for sabotage in accordance with a prearranged plan wherein each of our little Japanese friends will know his part in the event of any possible attempted invasion or air raid, and a secret loyalty to the Japanese emperor, rounding up the Japanese and putting them where they could do no harm. When the war is over, by that time some legal method may be worked out to deprive the native-born Japanese of citizenship. They are a race apart. But here in America, we want quality rather than quantity. We want the word American to stand for something that we honor and respect, that the Japanese can never be Americans in the true sense.
You take folks from their native land, their native country, you strip them of every piece of dignity of life, and you make them work. And you make them work for free.
I don't think we're ever going to have a healed country until we address the root of the harm that has been caused in the United States.
We were promised 40 acres and a mule after slavery. Obviously, those promises were broken.
African Americans, Black Americans supported our struggles for justice.
It is about how much pain was inflicted upon thousands of American people who happen to be Japanese in terms of ancestry. But this Black American cries out as loudly as my Asian American brothers and sisters.
They committed no crimes, yet they were imprisoned by the U.S. government. Their arrests and incarceration were motivated by racism, fear, and the failure of political leadership. These are the untold stories of Hawaii Island, Maui County, Oahu, and Kauai.
The day you walk through that gate, you know you lost something. There are some things in your heart that you can't forget.
We were afraid. You look like the enemy, but we're American citizens.
Imagine someone saying, you need to go to jail because you're Japanese American.
What did I have to do with Japan? Nothing. My family wasn't doing anything wrong, but we were paying for it.
Towers, searchlights, barbed wire fences around us. If they thought we were trying to escape, they had the right to shoot us.
We were stripped of our civil rights. We were stripped of everything. When that happens in America, that is a concentration camp.
There are stories about things that happen here, but nobody listens. My people, my ancestors, my grandparents have lived on this lake for thousands of years. Outsiders came into this valley and renamed it. We called it Paiahunaru, which means the place where the water always flows.
I was evacuated from Los Angeles on May 9, 1942. We were sent to the Manzanar concentration camp. The period I spent in Manzanar was the most traumatic experience of my life.
Manzanar is 1 square mile of land that has a deep history of forced removal.
Los Angeles bones in the heart of the valley.
They came here for the water.
They are trying to recharacterize this valley as always being a desert. What made it such a desert is their pumping.
This was the lake. This was all water before that.
Many people who lived at Manzanar developed upper respiratory breathing problems, like my grandmother.
I just don't have any energy. When I walk a little ways, I get tired real fast.
Not only was water a major factor in the siting of Manzanar, water was also the means of resistance.
This water, our water, it's there for everybody. Natives, non-natives, everybody. Don't take everything.
I think we've reached a point in America where we have to look on ourselves as more of a diverse nation.
Next, we will have Wesley Nihei, our membership coordinator, discuss the benefits of being a Nichi Bei member, including a free copy of Nikkei Connections, the Japanese-American Community Resource Guide.
In addition to 28 editions of the Nichi Bei Weekly throughout the year, a free San Francisco Japantown map and directory, a free wall calendar and discounts to events, members of the Nichi Bei will receive a very special new edition of the Japanese American Community Resource Guide. Your guide to Japanese America, the Japanese American Community Resource Guide features a guide to hundreds of nonprofit organizations, Japantown maps and directories, historic destinations relevant to the Japanese American experience, a map of wartime incarceration sites, Japanese public gardens, cultural arts classes, cultural festivals, cultural and community centers, Japanese language schools and summer cultural programs, community and senior centers, Japanese grocery markets, churches and religious organizations. The Japanese American Community Resource Guide was funded by a generous grant from the Henri and Tomoye Takahashi Charitable Foundation and is part of our mission to keep the community connected, informed, and empowered.
During the early days of the pandemic, the Nichi Bei staff made a conscious decision to change courses and serve an increasingly isolated community like we've never done before. Through various funding resources, we were able to actually expand our regular edition page counts by 33%. And thanks to the Henri and Tomoye Takahashi Charitable Foundation, we were able to increase our pool of contributing writers.
One such contributor is Linda Mihara, owner of Paper Tree, the origami store in San Francisco's Japantown. Linda has provided dozens of origami lessons in the Nichi Bei Weekly, keeping people of all ages active and creative. Next, Linda will present a video lesson on how to make an origami heart. We hope that you can all follow along to create your own heart just in time for Valentine's Day.
So now that you have your sheet of origami paper, which is simply a square sheet, we're going to fold it into a triangle. So let's go ahead and bring the points together like this. And what you want to do is fold from the middle on out. That way it doesn't shift on you and you have a nice triangle like this. Now take it and fold it in half. So bring those points together like this, make a nice crease. And then now we're going to unfold it. So let's unfold this and unfold this. You're going to now take this top point here and bring it directly to the center point where those lines meet, just like this. And then now take the opposite point here and bring it all the way up to where the line meets this top edge here. And make your crease. So it should look like this. Now we're going to take this half of the bottom edge and line that up with the center line, fold line here, like this. It looks like a paper airplane, so you're just folding it up so that it lines up right with the middle, fold like this. And the same for the other half. So you're going to take this and bring that up to meet the center, like this. Now let's take this model and turn it over to the back side. And you see these two top points here. You'll see there's a fold line here. So we're just taking the point here and bringing it right to where it meets the rest of the heart here. And the same for the other side. Fold that down like this. And then two more folds. These 2 points, you're just going to take that and fold it directly in, like this. And take the other point and fold that directly in, like this. And now turn it over and you have your wonderful origami heart. Super simple. So now that you have your really nice origami heart, I encourage you to make more hearts and do a display in your window. I started a project earlier this year to counter the Asian hate, and what's going to counter Asian hate or counter hate is love. So I've started a campaign to gather 1,000 origami hearts to help with this, and we have now over 7,200 hearts, and we have a wonderful display in the front windows here at Paper Tree. So I encourage you to fold hearts, think about love, do a display in your front window, and send us a picture or tag us. The website for more information is called gofoldme.org, and there you can find the instructions and a video if you wanted to make some more hearts. And if you want to send in your hearts here to Paper Tree, there's information there as well. So thanks for joining me, and let's keep the love going.
Now we're getting to the time where it's time to unwind with a nightcap. We have the perfect solution for you to relax. How to make the Gala cocktail with our very own columnist from Kaneohe, Hawaii, Ryan Tatsumoto, better known as the Gochiso Gourmet.
Hi, this is Ryan Tatsumoto, the Gochiso Gourmet, coming to you again, cocktail time here from Kaneohe, Hawaii. Today's cocktail I call the Gala. The story is one of my chef friends, Chef Kelly Gala, who you might know. He previously ran the kitchen at Preza V in the Presidio and Vade V in South Bay. But during his career, the Kosasa family, that's the family who owns the ABC stores. If you've been to Waikiki, there's basically an ABC store on every block. There's also some in Las Vegas now. But they recruited him for their multi-purpose space that they were creating. It has a bakery, ice cream shop, donut shop, also a very nice liquor store and a circular bar. And at the back of the space, they had their flagship restaurant, Basalt. So Kelly Gala was charged with running the kitchen, starting up the new restaurant. But as in the case of most artists, and all chefs are artists, I know they at some point want to open their own restaurant. So after a couple of years, he did that. He called it Gala, probably in tribute to the family name Gala. And shortly after they opened, a friend rented out about half the restaurant to help give him a hand. And his brother was there, Charles Gala. So I created this cocktail in their honor. I call it the Gala. Pidgin English, the is the, and it's also part of their name. It's a dark cocktail, usually you see in these steakhouses, a rich cocktail. So let's get started here. First thing is dark rum. I use Old Lahaina rum. Any dark rum will do. I like to try to support local. You need 1.5 ounces of this. By the way, this is my elevated craft cocktail shaker that I got through Kickstarter. Craft creates these double-walled, so they're insulated. If you see me looking in here, it's basically the measurements are all in the cup itself. It's stainless steel. Next up, I have sweet vermouth. You can use any red vermouth that you have on hand. I just so happen to have this Carpano Antica, which is a very good vermouth. 1 ounce of this. And finally, Nocino, which is a walnut liqueur. If you're allergic to nuts, don't use this. You'll get a reaction. Nice richness, also some bitterness from walnuts. And just 1/2 ounce of this. I already have ice in my cocktail shaker to chill it. And then finally with the bitters, I like this Chocolato Mole. It's a chocolate bitter, so any type of chocolate bitters, but I love this Bittermans. It's a little pricey, it's about 20 bucks for this bottle, but you just use a couple drops in each cocktail, so a little goes a long way. And I put about 5 dashes or so. And now it's gonna get a little noisy as I'm gonna shake this. Pour it into a martini glass. I found this martini glass. It's a double walled also, so especially in Hawaii, because of the condensation, because of the ambient humidity, you don't have things running all through your staining your coffee table or wherever you have your cocktail. And then finally, I'm just going to top it off with a little tonic water. I wrote about this before. This is Q Tonic. This is the only tonic water we purchase. It's not fortified with corn syrup and everything. It's actually agave syrup, and you get a lot more of the quinine. And I'm just going to top off the glass a little. And finally, as a garnish, I have maraschino cherries here. You do a little stir, You can let it hang off of the lip to make it look like a professional cocktail. And here you go. This is the Gala. Kanpai. Ah, perfect. See you again with my next cocktail.
Now, as we come closer to the end of our inaugural edition of the Nichi Bei Café, we come to our tips section. No, we will not be busking for tips. Instead, we will be providing tips on events to attend in the coming days. Please feel free to attend any and all community events if you so wish. These and more are consistently published in the Nichi Bei Weekly, waiting for you to discover them every other week. Feel free to subscribe to the Nichi Bei Weekly today at www.nichibei.org/subscribe and keep yourself connected to the community. And now, here are some tips.
Thank you for joining us on the new adventure, the official launch of our Nichi Bei Café. We hope that you enjoyed our first show and will come back to hang out at the cafe in the coming months.
At this time, we'd like to thank the Henri and Tomoye Takahashi Charitable Foundation for their generous support of the Nichi Bei Café. We appreciate our collaboration with you in finding new ways to engage our community during this unprecedented time.
We started today with a public service announcement in solidarity against Asian hate, which unfortunately has been all too prevalent in today's climate of fear. We hope to remain vigilant against these attacks and encourage the community to report instances of hate. We no longer have to suffer in silence.
We also focused the bulk of today's program on the forced removal of Japanese Americans during World War II and their incarceration in American concentration camps. As younger generations of Japanese Americans, we remain steadfast in remembering the sacrifices of those who came before us, like my grandparents who were incarcerated in the Jerome, Topaz, and Poston concentration camps, and my grandfather, Feb Yokoi, who served with the 442nd Regimental Combat Team in Europe.
Films of Remembrance was established by the Nichi Bei Foundation to help present a wide array of stories about wartime incarceration and the lessons about civil liberties that are important in today's society. We hope that you can join us on February 26th and 27th for this important educational program so that we can learn from the past to better inform the future.
We would like to end today's program, which comes just before Valentine's Day, on an optimistic note, brought to you in the form of song by former Nichi Bei Times intern Maho Watanabe and her vocal trio Yokohama Sisters. When her young son was teased at school for playing with toys designed for girls, she wrote a song to reassure him it's okay to be different, while also addressing a time of great stress in the world.
The result is Love Over Hate, with this very special remix featuring some people you may know, like Mountain View City Council members Margaret Abe Koga and Ellen Kamei, NBC Bay Area's Mike Inoue, our friends at JSEI, and Nichi Bei friends and family. We hope that in these times of great division and stress, we can always choose love over hate. Thanks again for joining us at the Nichi Bei Café, and now we present to you the Yokohama Sisters.
はじめましてこの世界へ今日はあなたに伝えたいことがある
その目に映ってる青い空がこれからも高くそこにあるようにクレヨンケースは魔法の箱別々の色が仲良く暮らしてる同じ色だけじゃ虹は描けない We are different, we are precious みんなで作るビッグレインボー Love, love, love over hate 愛は憎しみに勝り喜びは悲しみを超えてゆく Love, love, love over hate 覚えていてね大切なのは心の色あなたのクラスで聞こえてきた男らしさ女らしさそれって何 プリンセスドレスは女の子供の黒のランドセルは男の子だけのもの大丈夫だよ違っててもいいあなたはあなた幸せであればいい自分のカラーで歩いてゆこう You are beautiful, you are precious
心に燃やす pride and joy
Love, love, love over hate 愛は憎しみに勝り喜びは悲しみを超えてゆく Love, love, love over hate 覚えていてね大切なのは心の色
When someone try to break your heart, you keep your spirits up and just believe in yourself. The strongest muscle in your body is heart. Love is the strongest force that you possess. When someone try to bring you down, never let anyone define who you are. You are the painter of your own beautiful sky. Smile is the strongest power you possess.
一つ一つが輝く命重なり合えば喜びのハーモニー共に笑って共に生きてゆく All you need is smile and hug Come on and sing together Love, love, love over hate 愛は憎しみに勝り喜びは悲しみを超えてゆく Love, love, love over hate 覚えていてね大切なのは心の色 Love, love, love over hate 愛は憎しみに勝り喜びは悲しみを超えてゆく Love, love, love over hate 覚えていてね大切なのは心の色 Love, love, love over hate 愛は憎しみに勝り喜びは悲しみを超えてゆく Love, love, love over hate 覚えていてね大切なのは心の色喜びは悲しみを超えてゆく Love, love, love over hate 覚えていてね大切なのは心の色